Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, a podcast that never just says stuff, not if we can help it. It's Sif Pop. Welcome to Sif Pop Weekly, streaming live most Saturday mornings, or available to download later in your podcast feed, unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks.
Patrons get those perks.
Wow, you stole my joke.
I'm your host, Aaron Dicer, and he looks good even when he's not bathed in the light of a forgiving moon. It's Andrew Ormsby, ladies and gentlemen.
Ahoy! It shines right off my bald head.
It does, indeed. Each week we'll chat about movies, TV, and whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. And please welcome our guest this week. She's going to sing the entire show. It's Susan Kamyab Stevens.
Oh, hi. You would not like that.
I think you underestimate the joy I would take in that situation. Hey guys, exciting to chat with the both of you. We've got a couple very different movies this week, which is always interesting when that happens.
I don't see it.
Yeah, very similar. Really, just dealing with the same issues, really,
Basically.
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Both so necessary.
Yes, indeed. So yeah, we're going to talk about She Said, a new movie that's out in theaters, and Disenchanted, which is the Enchanted sequel that came out on Disney Plus this weekend. We're also going to do a best ever. What are we doing this week for best ever? Did I not prep my best ever?
Best ever challenge she movies.
Oh, that's right. Movies with the word she in them. Guys, I'm going to be honest here, live on the air. I somehow skipped prepping for the best ever challenge. So I'm going to be doing some last second.
Wow. So there's no graphic for yours?
Not yet. What I will do is when we do the first movie, Susan, I'll just have you sing for about 20 minutes while I do the prep. No, we'll figure all this out. So anyhow, yes, we're going to do best ever she movies with the word she in them.
Well,
and
Aaron,
the she.
if you
Go ahead.
if you send me your like a Patreon speech, I can do that while you're looking up something.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The word she can be hidden in other words as well. So that, opens it up a little bit wider. So yeah, and then of course we'll do some buried treasure along the way. Susan, how you doing? How's life been? It's been a hot second. How's stuff? How's award season? What's going on?
Good. Yeah. I feel like it's like in full swing right now. We're finally getting screeners, but I gotta admit, we're getting a lot of links and like apps and stuff, which honestly is a little gets me a little more stressed out, because I feel like when I got the physical DVD screeners, I could organize that out a little bit more and see what I need to watch. So now I'm like literally making a list on my phone of all the movies I need to make sure I watch that I don't go to the screenings to. But yeah, just working a lot. And I know we've got, I know you went to the Glass Onion thing, right?
Yeah, I went to the Glass Onion premiere this last week, and enjoyed my time there. It's interesting. My experience this year has been that the not only aren't we getting physical discs, I think I've gotten 2 discs this year for season.
I know, it's crazy, yeah.
But we're also not getting a lot at all. Like, I'm just going, like, there's a list of 40 movies that I would love to see before we have to vote in 3 weeks or whatever it is, 2
I
weeks.
know.
I don't know. It's 3 weeks, I think.
In December. Yeah. It's really, really weird. Yeah. I was just thinking how I wish I could have gone to that. I was invited. I wanted to go to that because I wanted to see Glass Onion really badly too. But that's another one that's on my list to watch. And in general, I don't feel like we're getting stuff that we need to watch. Like, and I wish they would do it. Didn't we get it used to get those like in October? Like, I don't remember getting them so late.
No, it has never been this late before. And I think there's this growing sense from the studios that they want to be the last thing that they put in our brain.
Okay.
And it's like, fine, go ahead and take that risk. But if I get 40 movies with 2 days left, I'm going to have to figure out a way to prioritize, which isn't fair for anyone. That's not fair for anyone. And especially, and you might say, well, go to the movie theater and see the movies, Aaron. Well, some of these aren't out yet. Some of them, especially where I'm at, aren't playing locally. A lot of the ones that are going to play in New York and LA and maybe some of the major markets aren't here in Springfield, Missouri. So I rely on these screeners to be able to make an educated assessment during award season. And this isn't a wham, I don't get to see movies thing. This is I want to do my job right. Like, I have a task to do here and I want to do it right. So yeah, it's been a weird one for sure this year. It seems very strange. And there was a lot of that chatter around the event this last weekend because a lot of our contemporaries were there at the Glass Onion premiere, and a lot of us were talking about where are the screeners this year? Like, where are they?
Yeah, and they're not really as accessible about links as much as I'd like to. I mean, some people are. Some people, like I said, they were really good about the menu, but I want to see Bones and all, and they're not giving a link for that. And I'm like, well, can I get the DVD? Like, I don't know. It's just, I'm just worried that exactly that. Like, I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed. So I'm trying to get a head start on whatever I do have so that by the time that they overload us and we have to spend a whole weekend trying to watch everything, that I don't have anything that I already have. Like, that's my main thing.
Yeah, I set up a list every year. I don't know if you're on Letterboxd, but I put the list on Letterboxd of the awards contenders that I want to make sure I see, and it's worked well for me to kind of make sure that I check out everything that might have a little bit of buzz around it. Basically, I take the 3 main sites that do a Best Picture race ranking, and they usually rank like the top 50 movies that might win Best Picture. And I average those rankings out and then sort it and make a list of, and the list this year is like 63 movies that have a shot according to that list. And it is on Letterboxd, my Letterboxd, if you want to check that out. Last year, Coda ended up winning Best Picture. And when I made those rankings, which I usually make around the end of October, Coda was ranked number 8th as the possible Best Picture
That's not
winner.
so bad.
And it ended up winning. So yeah, it's interesting to see how things change from late October to Oscar Day. It's an interesting kind of thing. So, like I said, I got 40 more to go, and I have one of them. I've already seen all the ones that I have access to. So it's
what do you have left to watch?
Oh, you want me to list all 40? All right, let's go to
No, you have 4. Oh, I thought you said you have. What's the one that you have that's left to watch? You said you had just
I would have to look. I go to the list and see what I have. But I have knocked off several that I have. I just have one more that I can knock off that's already out there. So yeah. Anyhow, critic problems, I know.
World's smallest violin. Yeah.
Andrew, how's it going for you, screener season? How's it working?
I've watched a few.
Yeah, I bet you have.
Yeah. So can't talk about them yet, obviously.
And we'll talk about them when it's time to talk about them.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we're gonna get into it. Let's start with a review of She Said. New York Times reporters Megan Tooley and Jodi Kantor break one of the most important stories in a generation, a story that helped launch the Me Too movement and shattered decades of silence around the subject of sexual assault in Hollywood. This is a journalistic process movie, journalistic investigation along the lines of, the Woodward and Bernstein stuff, or Spotlight, All the President's Men, all that stuff.
This is all the president's women, or all the producers' women.
All the yeah, I guess you could call it that for sure. Zoe Kazan is Jodie Cantor, Carey Mulligan stepping in as Megan Tooley. So and some real life people stepping in with their own part of the story as well, including Ashley Judd, who played the major role in the breaking of this story. What did you guys think? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay? Andrew, why don't you kick us off on this one?
I'm really close to loving this one, but I think for now I'm going to go with really liked it.
Okay. Susan.
Really liked it. Just exactly what Andrew said. Like almost there to loving it, but really liked it.
Man, there's no almost there about it for me. I loved this movie.
Okay.
My wife and I, after this movie was over, sat in the theater and talked for a bit, and then my bladder made that conversation stop a little bit early, so we continued to talk at home for a while. This is one of those movies you have to sit with and process and go over, and it was such a beautiful conversation to be able to have together after this movie. We were also both in tears at the end. This movie was very emotional for both of us. And you know, I'm not trying to take ownership of what is very much a female story, but I think it is important for us as men to feel these feelings and these emotions in this movie, even if we don't feel them as deeply and authentically as a woman might after watching this.
Also, we can't forget that not only women are victims. Like
correct. I think, Andrew, I think that's well worth stating. I think that is well worth stating. So yeah, I just, the experience of this movie is the biggest emotional journalistic investigation experience I've had since Spotlight. I think this is the best journalistic investigation movie since Spotlight. I think
like
it's
it better.
You
Really?
actually like it better than Spotlight. Yeah,
better than Spotlight.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Can I ask why y'all like it better than Spotlight? That's interesting.
Well, I don't know. I don't know that I have the ability to process that right now. I think I'm too close to this one right now.
Yeah,
but,
I just watched it yesterday, so yeah.
Yeah.
Man, it's hard. She said no. She said I just watched yesterday, so it's kind of hard for me to like say immediately that I liked it more than Spotlight, because I like Spotlight a lot. So I don't know if I'm there to say I like She Said more than Spotlight.
That's where I'm at. I still have to. That's a weird thing to try to weigh in my brain right now.
Right,
but
I think it needs time.
But it feels like that to me. It feels like how I felt after Spotlight, where it's just such important information. You come away. There's a thing. There are two things I have a real bias for in movies, and this movie is both of them. It should not be a surprise that I love it because of this. True life stories. I feel the emotion so much deeper when I know it comes from the real world, and especially in a situation like this where some of the real people are talking about what happened in the real world. Like I'm getting emotional even just thinking about some of this movie. And that brings the emotion home for me in a really real way. And then the other part of this is my bias is competence porn. Any movie that gives me people amazing at their job, doing amazing things with their job, is just catnip for me. And to watch these primarily women, these two women at the primary center of this, absolutely dominate the journalistic process and just completely with integrity and solidity and understanding their responsibility and their rules to get it right. I know there is a shifting perspective of how we trust news sources and media in this country. And I understand that. I get that. And a lot of that has to do with polarization. That is not the conversation we're having now. But a lot of the distrust of media comes with the idea that when the media says things that don't agree with your worldview, the media must be corrupt. And that goes all the different ways. Having said that, to watch something like this, you go, you know what? When you put it out there to do it right and you really make an effort to be above reproach, there's something really powerful about investigative journalism. And this movie shows that in so many different ways, and the respect with which it handles sources and sourcing and on the record, off the record, all that stuff. Man, I just love that stuff in this movie. And it's a movie that would be, and I feel like I'm dominating the conversation. I will let you guys talk, but I just really love this movie.
Keep going, brother.
Yeah, keep going. I love it.
I feel like when you watch this movie, you're watching a movie where people are just making phone calls, just talking. There's an entire scene where people are reading an article on a computer.
Yes.
Literally, we're just watching them read something off of a computer.
And they're taking turns being like, okay.
Yeah.
I love how the guy's like, hold
Wait.
on. Wait.
It's so
Okay.
perfect. It's so perfect.
How it's done.
How am I feeling this emotional and intense about people reading on silently on a computer? Like, to me, that is the magic of a movie that does this well. Is it takes you into the nitty gritty of the process, and you are on pins and needles about a phone call. It's astonishing how well this movie holds your attention for how boring it should be. The process should be boring. Now, granted, there are lots of this process that would be boring probably to watch. This movie, finds those moments of the boredom that are most important and most meaningful and most emotional and brings those to us. That's the beauty of what a movie can do, the way it can tell a story. But it is intentionally showing you the nitty gritty grind of this process, and it does it in such a really powerful way. So I've said enough. What are some of the things you guys liked about this movie? Because you both really liked it as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Susan.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you kind of covered a lot.
Sorry.
No. It's a good thing because it's making me like it even more. Maybe I'm there. Maybe. Yeah. I think there's something to be said that because I do feel like people could look at it. I will say I went on a matinee and it was me and one other person. It was an older white guy. I was already surprised. I hate to say this. I don't know. I will just say that halfway through the film, he left and he didn't come back. So I was so curious why. Like I was like, why was this? Did he not? Was it political reasons? Was it? But I'm also like, you knew.
Did
what
he get
you
a
were,
text that his son had a flat tire? Like you just never know.
I just because I'm like, I don't know how you would leave. Like it's just getting even better now. So, but then I also wondered, are people going to find it boring because it's a lot of talking, it's a lot of researching, and but this movie does that so well to the point where it's exciting, it's thrilling. Like I love it. I love those shots where you're walking down the hallway in the middle of the newsroom, or you're trying to when you're intensely researching and you find something. Like I love that stuff. Exactly like you said, before they hit submit. But also the performances are fantastic. I think Zoe Kazan and Carey Mulligan. We want to talk about acting awards. Here we go. I don't know if it maybe Carey Mulligan has a slight edge here. I'm not sure. Maybe I don't know. But they're both fantastic.
Well, I think it's worth mentioning that Zoe Kazan, I think, is submitting in lead, and Carey Mulligan is submitting in supporting.
What?
I think that's worth mentioning for a couple reasons. Number one, it helps to clarify awards chances. Number two, it can bring back that discussion that we have every year about category fraud and the idea of why are we letting actors decide, or producers or whoever's making these decisions, what category it goes in? Shouldn't that be the awards body that decides what category it goes in? Now, technically it is, by the way, the awards bodies, but what awards body is going to go, nah, I'm going to put you in lead instead. I actually would too. So I actually have, in fact, done that. So
it's interesting.
Yeah. So
I mean, I'm glad they're doing that so they don't. I mean, obviously, it's so they don't split votes. Well, that'll help their chances, both of them.
Yeah, but Jennifer Ely could have been a perfect supporting suggestion for this movie. Her scene on the Cornwall, at the beach in Cornwall, where she's telling her story, she is so good in that scene. She's the perfect definition of a supporting actor nom. I guess supporting actress for the category. But yeah.
And you bring up another good thing too, is I think this had a really perfect opening hook. I love the beginning of this movie. I think that was really great, and how it comes back too.
Yeah. Andrew, some thoughts. What do you like?
Well, I think that the best compliment you can give this film is that it would be considered the sequel to All the President's Men, which I think is the best investigative reporting film that I can think of.
I've actually
off the top of
never
my head.
seen that.
I thoroughly enjoy it, but I can see how a lot of people would watch this movie and go, "Okay, it's a copy paste of that movie," because there's the deep throat character, there's the final call at the very end where you're waiting for that call to come in, and I mean there's a lot of scene for scene comparisons with that, but if you're gonna like try and base a investigative reporting movie off anything, you could do a lot worse than All the President's Men. Going on to our two leads, I think they are just incredible. I personally would say that Zoe Kazan is the one who steals the movie for me.
Okay.
But
They're both
but
great.
they're both so good.
Mhm.
I mean, but Kazan has several scenes where she really pushes her character to an emotional breaking point
Mhm.
that I felt not only believable but genuine. Again, not to take away from Carrie Mulligan or Patricia Clarkson or Andre Brower, that core group of people at the New York Times. I really loved the team aspect that they brought. Everybody had something that they brought to the table. I love how every single time somebody had to talk to Harvey Weinstein, Andre Brower was like, "I'll take care of it," and he would just put him in his place. And every single time, I was like, "Yeah, you go."
They're so good.
Yeah. Oh, it's an acting tour de force, which you need in a movie like this, where there is a lot of walkie-talkie going on.
Yeah.
But every single time that there was a victim that had to be interviewed about their experience about working with Harvey Weinstein, it was insane how all the victims' stories entailed similar they entailed horrific aspects that were very similar to one another, but each story being told felt deeply personal and unique for them. And I struggled so many times in this movie to keep from crying, and I failed multiple times in this movie. But
here's the trick, Andrew. Here's the trick. Just cry. Just don't try to stop. Just let it flow.
But I ugly cry.
Let the emotion flow through you.
I do the lip quiver,
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. I love it. It is a beautiful cry. I would never call that an ugly cry. Other thoughts that you might have. If we want to go into negatives, we can go into there. Whatever else about this movie that impacted your experience, Susan.
You guys have negatives?
I don't have negatives. I was curious of y'all's thoughts on Ashley Judd in the film.
Yeah,
because I didn't like expect her, and I also, there were moments for a second that was probably like where it almost took me out just a moment of the movie for a split second.
Well, let's talk about the choice this movie makes, right? The choice this movie makes is that if this is a person you're going to recognize, that's either going to be that person or we're not going to show you their face.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? That's down the line. Now, maybe if you like studied this story and you know some of the players, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking the people that the majority, Gwyneth Paltrow, Rose McGowan, Harvey Weinstein, Donald Trump, the people that are in this movie, that the majority of people would know what they look like. The movie makes the choice to. I think Ashley Judd is the only one that is actually the person that we see.
Yeah,
and so we see her.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong about that, and please let me know. But if it's somebody else, we see the back of heads, we hear voices. The Gwyneth Paltrow voice was dead on, like it sounded like Gwyneth Paltrow to me.
Wait, we heard Gwyneth Paltrow
on the phone. On the phone. The Donald Trump voice was dead on. Like
the Trump voice was.
I think those are authentic recordings, aren't they?
Some of them are, but I don't
Not Rose
know
McGowan.
No, I don't think the Rose McGowan stuff is authentic.
Trump one was good.
It was either a recording or it was what I'm bringing up here is the fact that the movie gives you the best chance you have at not being distracted by that stuff.
Right.
And I think it does it really, really well. Now, Susan, what you bring up about Ashley Judd is ironically that maybe becomes a distraction because you know that actually is the person. And so you are aware that this is a person who is reinserting themselves in the story, who is now older than they were when this was, happening, although not a lot.
7-8 years.
Yeah, something like that. So it's, for me, I didn't find it distracting. I found myself getting more emotional during those parts.
Yeah,
So.
it was just the initial, because I didn't expect her, and I was like, whoa.
Oh, okay.
Like just the initial
shock. Oh, that's really actually good.
Shock. Yeah, that was like the moment where for a second it took me out, and it was fine because obviously there's a key moment with her and Zoe Kazan that I did cry, and I was like, oh my gosh. It's almost like similar to like first, I mean, like you remember like Honey Boy with Shia LaBeouf, where it's like when you're recreating, like, it takes you a moment, like, okay, it's interesting to see them play themselves, or I mean, I know he was playing his dad, but still, you know what I mean? Like playing characters they know. It just like takes me a second because that's very rare. It's very rare. We're in a biopic, or not in a biopic, but like a true story. The real person comes in and plays themselves. So I just wasn't expecting it. But once I got into it, I mean, I love that she did that. I think that's wonderful. And that's speaks volumes on her too. Like it made it that much more impactful and that much more authentic. And I think that's the key thing with this movie is that it feels so authentic, and they don't try to be very Hollywood with it. I feel like they don't mind just being like, I don't feel like simple's the right word, but I mean, it's just very authentic. I feel like that's just the main thing. They don't try to go glitzy and bigger or anything like that, and that's what makes it so much more powerful.
Well, and also because it's not. I mean, okay. Let me state this carefully. It is, of course, about the experiences of all these people. But the movie is so centered on the journalistic process and what that means to the stories of these people, that I don't think we have really the movie doesn't get starstruck. There's nothing about this movie that feels like I was actually worried at the beginning with the Trump call. I was actually worried at the beginning because one of the very first things we hear is this conversation with Donald Trump, and I was like, oh, is that what we're like? We're just going to be like, hey, look at these famous people that were involved. But the movie very quickly finds its balance and its tone, and that becomes just a part of, the launch pad of what we're talking about. So yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think that was so essential to have that, because that showed that was the start of it. But it was interesting because and I'm not trying to, it's not a political thing. It's just like they showed what that man did with sexual misconduct, and then he became president, and then what other people got in trouble, but for other actions. But this man became president. Like it was interesting to see that.
There's an underlying theme or through line about why does it matter? All this work we put into investigating and being above reproach, why does it matter in the case of Trump if he's just going to be elected president and nobody cares? And you get a real sense that the feeling even during the Weinstein stuff was like, we'll put this out, but is it really going to make a difference? Like, what makes a difference? And there are several conversations about why you make that choice, even if it doesn't make the difference that you think it might make, that I think are really powerful. And we have the benefit of hindsight to go, well, of course it made a difference. It became a huge movement, which, by the way, this movie never references Me Too. The hashtag Me Too. Not once.
You're right. Yeah.
During the entire, not even in the end credit, like not even in the Harvey Weinstein was accused of this, like, the end things that come up in these movies. It never mentions Me Too.
At the end of the movie where they have it in different languages, she said, and, it's like translated for like the global audience. I was surprised. I thought I was going to see it in there too.
I was so surprised that I wondered if it was a legal issue. Like I wondered if somebody owns the rights to like the what's it called? The trademark on that phrase or something, which would be a shame, honestly. But I mean, that is how ownership, content culture works, unfortunately. So but it did seem strange enough that I wondered, like, maybe there was a reason they couldn't do that, or maybe they just didn't want that to be part of the distraction. I don't know.
Right. So. I think that could have taken people out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, let's do our one last thing. Any final thing you want to talk about with She Said?
Oh, go ahead. No, Andrew. I was going to add something, but you can.
No, you can go ahead. It's okay.
Yeah,
no,
go for it.
I just wanted to mention that She Said earned a Sophie for those Critics' Choice women's committee.
Oh,
I thought we announced that this week, so I just thought it was relevant that it won the women's seal, and I think it was, and I just watched it, and I think it was very well earned. It was the seal of female empowerment and entertainment, and I just wanted to give it that credit.
Yeah. Yep. One last thing, Andrew.
Besides no post-credit scene, I would say that this film is directed beautifully by Maria Schrader, who I just found out about, because I think she's only done, besides her acting career, she's a German director mostly, so not a lot of English films that I might have heard of. But I found she has the ability to capture specific scenes with this nuanced sense of dread and suspense. What I mean by this is, like, there are scenes where you'll have two individuals who we're focusing on, and they're having a discussion, yet the camera is shot from either a reflective surface or from outside of a window, and it builds tension because you see, the reflections of people walking down the road or down the hallway, and you don't know if it's just a random pedestrian or if it's somebody following these reporters. So the way this film is shot, I think, deserves a lot of praise. I think it was very smart the way they did it.
Yep. Yeah, it was shot. I also like that they didn't show, I don't know if that's necessarily a spoiler, but they don't show the actual attacks. Like,
yeah,
that's true.
I like that. And it's funny because the way the women talk about it is so descriptive and visual in your mind that you almost feel like you watched it. You're like, oh, I feel like I did see that. But, you just see images of clothes on the floor or something like that. And I thought that's, in some ways, that's even more graphic, just because it's left to our own imagination. So
do you guys know, because I did not look it up, the recording of the event that happened, is that the actual recording? Is that a matter of public record and they were able to use it? Or
I was wondering that too. It has to be, right?
It's the most unsettling scene in the entire movie.
I was gonna say, you bring up the fact that we're not shown anything, but to hear that, even if it was a recreation, it's a spectacular recreation. I don't believe it is a recreation. There are moments where the subtitles say, unintelligible, or where you can't hear exactly what's being said. So it felt very almost documentary like during that moment. And it's just, the visual is just slow pans down hotel hallways. And it's so effective. It's so effective. It just feels like this movie, every 100 choices this movie made, 99 of them were correct, and the other one was good enough. None of them were bad. This movie did not make bad choices. It really doesn't feel like it did. So yeah, I guess that would be my kind of one final thing. So there you go. That She Said. It's available in theaters. High recommend. This is one of those movies where it's just like, don't let it just fly under the radar and be like, oh, I don't want to feel things, so I don't want to go see that movie. Like, we need to process this stuff. We need to experience it. We need, as a culture, to wrestle with the demons of what it means to be humans and to be around other humans, and the empathy that it takes to live together and hear each other's stories.
Yeah, but also you got to be aware that this is a movie that can trigger a lot of emotions for people.
Of course.
So you need to be aware of the type of movie that you're watching. While it is being important, I'd never would want to have somebody relive an experience just to see a movie, but it is a very good movie, and it's an important movie too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The stat I hear often is that 1 in 5 women have been sexually assaulted. And the fact that 20% of the female population has dealt with actual sexual assault, not sexual impropriety, sexual assault is astonishing. And I think you clearly understand the kind of topic that you're going into here. And there's a large portion of women who have already had to process this and deal with this, and yourself, better than anyone else, and whether or not a movie like this would be a overall negative experience or an overall positive one for you. But from my perspective, it is necessary watching for many, many people to understand. So. Yeah. So there you go. That is She Said. Let's move on and talk about Disenchantment.
Totally different.
Yeah, just a little bit. Disillusioned with life in the city, feeling out of place in suburbia, and frustrated that her happily ever after hasn't been so easy to find, Giselle turns to the magic of Andalasia for help, accidentally transforming the entire town into a real-life fairy tale and placing her family's future happiness in jeopardy. She must race against time to reverse the spell and determine what happily ever after truly means to her and her family. This is available on Disney+. I do not believe it's getting a theatrical release. So this is a sequel, of course, to Enchanted. It brings back most of the cast for another round. Patrick Dempsey and is coming back with Amy Adams as the central couple. And then, of course, you've got James Marsden and Idina Menzel as the Andalasia king and queen. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about Disenchanted. What did you think? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay? Susan, you get to start this time.
Like a notch above. I don't want to say hate it.
Oh, like a low dislike?
Maybe I'll give it like it was okay. Low okay.
I was gonna say it's definitely a low okay if you're going okay. I can tell by the tone of your voice.
Yeah, sure.
Like when you're like, I don't want to say I hated it. We're already well into the low okays at that point.
Yeah.
A low okay.
I don't want to say I hated it because I loved it.
No, it's not going there.
That's right.
Definitely.
Andrew, what about you?
Well, I had to watch Enchanted first.
Oh, okay. How was that experience for you?
Yeah, I liked Enchanted. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Oh, I love Enchanted.
Yeah, Enchanted's good.
This one I would say that I did not like as much as the first one. I will join Susan in just okay, but I'm not like teetering into didn't like it or anything like that.
Well, we are all we run the various spectrum of the just okay, because I'm on the high side of just okay. So,
so we're all in an okay realm.
We're all just kind of like meh, but I kind of liked it. Meh, but I didn't like it. And meh. So yeah,
I guess I watched it.
I guess that means I'm the one that loved this movie. I guess that puts me at the highest ranking of all of us.
Is this your movie of the year?
This movie is so good. No, I'm just kidding. This.
Oh my God.
Look, here's the thing. This movie is exactly the movie you think it's going to be. Like this is one of those movies where you're just following the next thing. You're finding a little spin to put on it, but you're trying to recapture the same literally magic and do, put a movie out there that can recapture, the audience of Enchanted. Now, that is a good thing and a bad thing. It is a good thing, meaning if you like Enchanted, you're going to find some stuff to like here. You're going to like these characters already. You're going to want to see what the next page of the story tells. I did like that this movie started with the idea of, happily ever after. Doesn't that mean ever after? Like, why are we doing a sequel? Like, you get married and then you're happy, and that's all it works. There's no problems after. I loved that kind of idea at the beginning. Mm-hmm. But this movie goes exactly where you think it's going to go. So the negative of that is there's not really a lot here to keep me interested, because I kind of get what's going on here. This movie lives formulaically ever after. It feels like they took the formula of the first and put a little spin on it, and yay, happy, skip to my loo, we're having an okay time. But yeah, so that is where I land. I think I put it on the high side of okay because I like Enchanted. I like this universe. I like Amy Adams. I absolutely love the James Marsden character. I think he's almost in a different movie than everybody else, and I wish I was watching that movie a little bit more. It almost feels like the Chris Pine performance from Into the Woods, where it's just like this really interesting, royal character. I like when the movie goes to those places more than when it tries to find its authenticity in the human world.
That's actually my biggest con with the movie is James Marsden.
What?
Oh, interesting.
Because he's not in it enough.
Oh, yes, I was going to say that. He wasn't in it enough. And that was so great about Enchanted is I felt like I got a good amount of him, and we needed him so much more in this one.
He got all the laughs from me in the first one.
Yeah, like the Maya Rudolph stuff wasn't working for me, and that kills me to say. I love Maya Rudolph, and again, there are a lot of things that go into whether a performance works or not. But it was just like I think that was supposed to be comedy, but it was. But
and she's normally very funny. It's not her fault. I think it was the script. Like it just wasn't. I did not laugh at anything with her, and I did not like even like the two side minions, whatever they were. It was just like I'm not feeling this.
It's the writing.
All.
It really feels like it might be the writing in this case.
No, it's the writing.
Because Jayma Mays is also hilarious. I love her and stuff. Yvette Nicole Brown is great.
Community, come on.
Yeah, but it's just like they weren't given the stuff to work with here.
They're very empty characters.
Yes. Even the whole like thing when she did the cupcake sale and she's like, vote for Morgan, all that stuff. And then she's just like, you're not supposed to do this. Let's take it down. I was just like, what? What is this? Isn't anything like this. I don't feel this. I don't feel it just feels cringy.
Yeah. There is unfortunately a little bit of a cringe element to it. I was trying to think other than James Marsden, who you're right is not in it enough, where the humor points were, and I think some of the songs have some funny things in them. I like songs. These aren't like memorable songs by any stretch of the imagination, but it's fun to see Amy Adams dancing with a large group of people in a courtyard. Like that's fun for me. The fact that she really did like. Take voice lessons to be able to sing this stuff. Some of the stuff she's singing is she's really talented. She's found a and of course she's in a movie with Idina Menzel. How do you stand up to Idina Menzel?
Yeah, Idina's song is the best part of the movie.
The one where she with the memories, right? Like that. Yeah. That was my favorite part. Was that?
You think that's Oscar non-worthy?
I think it is. Yes, because it gave me, that was the one point in the film where I kind of got chills. I will tell you, I was struggling to pay attention in this movie. And it more so halfway through. First half, I was in it. And then when they do the spell or whatever, I'm like, oh no, I hate this. And then Idina's song pulled me back. Like I was on my phone and then I was like, what's this now? And I was getting like the chills. And I was like, ooh, I don't know if it's her. I mean, she is phenomenal. She could sing the phone book and I would be entranced. But that song was with the memories and everything. I love that part. That was my favorite part.
Yeah, maybe Oscar Nunez made me laugh a couple times. He had a couple funny lines, I thought. But overall, beyond James Marsden just nailing that character, there just wasn't a lot to laugh at.
He wasn't as good as James Marsden, but I think that Patrick Dempsey, whenever he was trying that character, it got a few chuckles out of me, but it was either...
It's just he's not that good at it.
No, I thought that's what made me cringe too, is I could tell he was trying to be like James Marsden in the last film, and I was like, oh, this is failing.
Yeah, Prince Patrick Dempsey, or whatever he was in that world, was the cringiest part of the movie for me. It was just like, no, it's not working.
Oh, that was the cringiest part for you?
Well... It was up there.
Yeah, I was like, I could see what he was trying to do, and I was like, okay with it. But really, it was the three, evil witch. I guess they weren't witches, but close enough.
No, you're right. Actually, Andrew, I agree with that.
my biggest pro for the movie, which you guys did mention, is Amy Adams. And maybe it's the fact that I have watched the first one and this one back to back, but I got the sense that she is somehow able to fully embody all of these Disney princess characteristics in a very convincing way. Like, I can't imagine how difficult it must be to fully embody the traits of specific animated characters and then make them believable in a live action performance.
Mhm.
But she did, so kudos to you. That's really impressive. And I don't know if it's just because Disney has a patent on fairy tale whimsy and wonder, but it felt so real. The magic felt so real and like loving. Even the darkest magic that's in this reminded me of all those, animated Disney films I watched growing up. I'm like, oh yeah, this reminds me of Maleficent, or oh yeah, that reminds me. But it brought a smile to my face whenever I saw that. So I think that's why I can't say I didn't like this movie, because it did make me smile, and I'm not upset that I watched it.
Yeah.
What else do we want to talk about with Disenchanted? Aside from how perfect the title is for our response to this movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's savage.
Did anyone feel like Patrick Dempsey almost felt like useless in this movie, or not as connected? Because that was a feeling. I felt like he was a little bit like they were. I don't know. I just felt like, obviously, since it was more about her relationship with her stepdaughter, that they
Yeah.
kind of they were trying to make Patrick Dempsey's character relevant to the story, and that might be why he was so cringy as trying. Like, I don't know. I just didn't. I don't like that they went with the route that to keep him in this. His storyline was going to try to be like the prince. Like, I just was like,
Yeah.
why don't you be more involved in this? This is your daughter. Like,
Yeah.
why don't I don't know. It just felt very. I was like, this is what we're doing with you. I don't know. That was like probably one of my biggest qualms.
Susan, I 100% agree with you. Yeah, you nailed it. Like they were writing the script, and then it's as if they're like, oh yeah, he has to do something, doesn't he?
Right. Exactly.
And then they were just frantically trying at the very. No, you're 100% right. And I'm sorry, I can't remember if it was Aaron or Susan, but you brought up the stepmother aspect of this, and I think the film focuses. And this is my biggest negative with the movie, by the way. The film focuses on the cliche of the evil stepmother, and I was kind of hoping that this particular story arc would have something to say about how in the real world a step parent can be just as real as a birth paternal or maternal figure. But the film doesn't want to focus on that, which is a shame, because I think if they would have done that, that could have made this movie just as good as the first one. Like, because otherwise I don't think this movie actually has anything to say.
Right. I think they cop out on that. And I thought that's where they were headed. Like in the beginning, I was really into it the first half. Honestly, before they did the switch there, I thought we were going to see, like, her stepdaughter wasn't feeling like the real daughter. Like, I thought they were going to go on their bond. Like, we didn't. And then when they switch and it turns into, oh no, I'm turning into an evil stepmother, I was like, wait, now you just lost sight of what you were going for, or what I thought you were going for.
Yeah, I mean, I really tried to give the movie credit for the evil stepmom stuff, because there's something it's trying to say about humanity, about the idea that we all can find ourselves being the villain in someone else's story. Right.
Yeah.
The idea that from her daughter's perspective, there is something villainous about a stepmom. Like there's a reason that's a trope, right? The evil stepmom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the idea that to think about how you become less of a villain to the people who you may appear to be a villain to is a really interesting thing to think about. And who in whose narrative am I a villain? And the case is, as a human being, probably more than one someone's, you're the villain in their story. And why is that? And what can I do to reclaim that narrative? What can I do? And we shouldn't all go around trying to be the hero in everyone else's story. That's not our job. Our job is to be, in my opinion, find purpose in being the best version of ourselves we can be according to our worldview and how we see the world and what it means to be a good human. And that is an interesting philosophical conversation that this movie doesn't have an ounce of energy to give to. Like, it just lays it right there in the text one or two times without really exploring it. But I think that was the goal. I think the goal was to find a way through that topic. It's just trying to do too many other things to really spend a lot of time there, in my opinion. So yeah. But that's there, right? It's there, and it certainly could be meaningful to some people. So yeah, which at the end of the day, that's not bad. That's good. Yeah. And this is one of those movies where I just go, I'm glad it's there. I'm glad people who liked Enchanted have a way to kind of carry on this story. It just sits on Disney Plus, and if you want to check it out, check it out. Like, I don't know. It's fun that we live in a world where movies don't have to be award contenders to have a positive place in somebody's life, just to be like, we'll throw this on and watch it with the kids tonight, kind of thing.
I think it helps that it's a streaming film. I don't know if we're trying to tell people to go pay to go watch it at the theaters necessarily.
Well, I'm not even telling people to go stream it on Disney Plus. I'm just saying it's nice that it exists as something, as a choice that you and your significant other, you and your family, you and your kids, you and your parents, whatever, have an opportunity to go, hey, let's watch that Disenchanted movie tonight and just have a good time together. Like, that's, it's not one of those movies that I think you'll come away from going, oh, that was terrible. Why did we spend 2 hours watching that? Which, by the way, it is a 2-hour movie.
It's really
long. It is a 2-hour movie.
It felt
really
long. So to contradict myself right in the middle of saying, hey, maybe watch it. It is 2 hours long. But yeah, I'm glad these movies exist. I really am. I am for a world where mediocre movies can exist for the joy of some people who are not me. So yeah, that's where I land. Just put it on the DVD case, put it on the Blu-ray case. Aaron Dicer, glad this movie exists for people that aren't him. That'll work well for promotion. Any final thoughts?
No post-credit scene. If you haven't seen the first one, definitely check it out.
I thought there was no, there wasn't, huh? No, you're right. The first one had one, right? I can't remember now.
I can't either. But I think the only thing that's going on during the credits is like some like background effects and stuff like that, but no actual like scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Susan, did you have anything else you wanted to mention?
Not really. I mean, like I said, it's okay if you want to keep watching it. I mean, I was just such a fan of the first one. So I think that was why it didn't have the magic of the first one for me, but I did really enjoy that song. And I do think Amy Adams is incredible and James Marsden. And so, yeah, it's fine.
It's okay. Yeah, I
That's
agree.
your DVD box title right there.
That's right.
It's okay.
That's right.
It's okay.
Yeah, I think I don't really have much else to say. There's nothing I feel like really needs to be brought out.
Nah.
I had a time. I had a time.
You had a time.
I had a time.
Well, it didn't help that right after I watched it, I watched Spirited. And I know maybe that's not as much of a kid's movie.
Oh, that's the Ryan
Reynolds and
Will Ferrell.
And I enjoyed that far more.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's my one last thing. I haven't seen Spirited, so I'll watch that.
Okay.
All right. Before we move on, just want to let you know we appreciate our SIF Pop members so much. We love doing extra content for you guys, by the way. We had a great conversation about the menu, and I will mention this here because you may be wondering, why aren't you reviewing the menu this week? The menu came out. We reviewed the menu on this podcast several weeks ago because I got a chance to see it at a film festival a while back, and so we did a full review then. However, if you're curious to hear Andrew's thoughts on it or Susan's thoughts on the menu or my extended thoughts on the menu, because it is clearly a movie I loved, we have that in the members-only pre-show for this week. So what happens when you are a SIF Pop member at a certain level? you get bonus podcasts most weeks, and those just show up in your own personal podcast feed, including ad-free versions of the main podcasts show up in that feed for you as well. So if that's something you're curious about, maybe you've been thinking, oh, I'd love to support them. Maybe that's the thing that puts you over the edge. Whatever the case may be, just know that you're loved and appreciated for even considering it. We do appreciate the support we get from our SIFPOP members. So check that out at Patreon. It's patreon.com/SIFTPOP. That's patreon.com/SIFPOP if you're curious in checking any of that out. All right, here is what we are going to do. We are going to go to the Buried Treasure segment. We're going to record that now live. Then we are going to end the live show, and then we'll record the Best Ever Challenge segment not live. So apology to our live viewers. It is my fault, my lack of preparation. But there will be a Best Ever Challenge in the podcast proper. We're just going to record it after we're done recording live with you. So in order to do that, Phil, I will give you an in for the Buried Treasure. All right, let's finish it up with the Buried Treasure. What is that one thing in any area of pop culture that you want to make sure people know about? Susan, you're our guest, so you will go last. Andrew, why don't you kick us off? What do you want people to know about?
Have you ever had a movie that you know is like remarkable, and then you rewatch it and it just reaffirms how remarkable you have undersold it all the time?
Yes.
There's a movie that was in my top 100 movies of all time, and I was like, I haven't watched that in so long. Is it really just as good as I remember? And it was better. And that movie is A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe, Ed Harris, Jennifer Connelly, Christopher Plummer, and Vision. Paul
Yeah.
I'd heard of John Nash whenever I was in school, because all the math teachers have to talk about John Nash at some point. I actually even had a teacher who, whenever this movie came out, which was like 2003 or 2002, somewhere around there, I can't remember. 2001. Wow. But every single year they would. Even in high school, they just played it over like once a semester. And I'm like, okay, cool. We get 1 or 2 days where we break down A Beautiful Mind and we just talk about it. So I'd heard of John Nash, and then I'd seen the movie, which was remarkable. Russell Crowe is stunning in this one. What a 1-2 punch. Because the movie he did just before this was Gladiator. And while I think this is the better performance, I might have Gladiator as a better movie, but not to take away from. How do you guys feel about Ron Howard movies? I know Aaron is a fan.
Yeah,
but Susan,
I like most of his movies. Yeah.
I like him.
I think that his portrayal of a man slowly losing his grip on reality is done just so masterfully. And Akiva Goldsman, who is definitely a hit and miss kind of writer, he hit with this one. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm glad I rewatched it. I forgot how tense and like a white knuckling, like anxiety inducing this movie can be in points. But it's so good. So good.
Yeah, I love this movie. I'm due for a rewatch as well, so I might have to pump up the rewatch list after I get through the 40 more movies I need to see in the next 3 weeks.
Well, hey, if they don't send you any, send you any screeners, you can always pop it in.
Then I will catch up on the 40,000 TV shows I need to catch up on. It's hard to find time to rewatch stuff.
We'll never get caught up.
Yeah, no, never, ever. The last movie I had that experience with was Everything Everywhere All at Once. Did a rewatch on that recently for awards consideration, and I thought that movie was astounding the first time I saw it. Mm-hmm. I am now in awe of that film.
It's still my number one of the year.
Did their screener? Did they?
No.
Oh, okay, just watch it again. Yeah. That's one they need to
the 4K is actually on sale on Best Buy right now. So for a really good price. So really good copy available if you want it.
But still number one movie of the year for me.
It is definitely closer to that for me now after a rewatch. So yeah, that's always a good experience to have.
Aaron, what's your buried treasure for the week?
My buried treasure. I had a lot to pick from because I'm catching up on so many movies. I decided to go with one that's on Prime called Argentina 1985. So Argentina 1985 tells a true story. Imagine that. I enjoyed watching a true story about the trial in the mid 80s in Argentina, which you would guess from the title, where they basically put a military coup on trial, like election subversion. Now, Argentina had a past full of dictatorships, full of people taking power, owning the military, and just
Past, huh?
running the country. Yes, a past. In fact, the point of this movie is since 1985, they have not had a dictatorship again. And there is this trial that is often seen as the process that led them to this never again movement, which is this idea that, you know, we as the people are going to put people on trial who try to do this. It is really astonishing. It's one of those movies where you watch the characters and you just go, how would I hold up under that pressure? How would I hold up under the life or death pressure of knowing that, you know, people wanted to kill you if you were going to put them on trial? How does a system put on trial somebody who has broken the system? And it's really, really interesting. I would highly recommend, as always, watching the subtitled version, not the dubbed version. I always get very distracted during the dubs. The default for Prime apparently is to just do the English dub. I think you miss so much of the emotion and the performances when you do that. So I would highly recommend the subtitled version. But this is a great courtroom drama, and I love courtroom drama movies. So Argentina 1985 is on Amazon Prime. So Susan, what do you got in your buried treasure?
Well, I have kind of in line with screeners that we had as well. And this is another Sophie recipient. It is Selena Gomez, My Body, Mind, and Me. I think it's that documentary that she came out with. It's on Apple TV Plus. And I was kind of like, when I saw the advertisements for it, I was like, whatever, we'll see. And I watched this late at night, and I'm thinking I'd only watch like 10 minutes of it. And I got pulled in to watch the whole thing. I cried. I was captivated. I just think she is so raw and real. And I feel like we see a lot of these celebrity documentaries, and I don't know. This one felt more authentic than the ones I've seen before. She is okay with making herself look not bad, but like she doesn't mind. She's not trying to create a perfect image of like, oh, here's my struggles and here's my highs or anything.
Sure.
She lets herself look annoyed. There's a scene specifically that really hits for me whenever she's getting interviewed by somebody who's clearly not listening to her and is asking good questions, but like as she's like, oh yeah, wow, she gives her an answer that she could easily like, she's like, okay, thank you, and she's like, okay, great, and like she just like kind of cuts her off, like you can tell, and she's like, and she goes back to her friend, she's like, I hated that I feel like a prop. And it just makes you in our industry feel like, wow, like really listen to your talent that you're talking to. Like, don't just like think like, I mean, she just ended it. So, but it just shows a lot of the struggles with her mental illness and any insecurity she has and her life in general. So I thought it was really eye-opening, and I appreciated her sharing that part of her life with us.
I think it's so important to find empathy for celebrities because I think there is a real natural tendency to be like, what do you have to complain about?
Right.
Look at your bank account. Look at your fame. Like, what do you have to be upset about? And we know that a bank account and fame don't change you as a human. Like
they're humans. They're just like us.
Right. Like it doesn't change human nature. It could change how you interact with the world. It could change, money certainly I think most people would say money, power, those kind of things really just allow you the opportunity to show who you are, in a grander way. But I think there is real empathy to be found for what fame can do to people and how it can impact people. Enough of these stories get told and come out, and I think we see the change in the pursuit of fame, because enough of these stories get told and more people go, oh, maybe I don't want to be famous. Maybe,
I know.
maybe the pursuit of the idea of my opinions and my stuff is important for everybody to see. Maybe that changes a little bit. And, as somebody who puts a lot of content out, I'm glad I'm just like the lowest possible, famous there is. Like whatever the lowest tier of fame is, I'm glad that I'm just there. I really honestly, like sometimes I'll think, would I want 10,000 Twitter followers? I mean, Twitter's a whole different conversation to have right now. And I think, you know what? I don't know that I would. I think the couple thousand people who like to hear what I have to say or whatever is fine. I don't and if that were just, like my family and a dozen friends, that's great too. Like, it's just, it becomes a lot clearer when you start to tell these stories that you get to weigh everything that is involved with what it means to be in the spotlight in a big way. And we all get to judge and react to our own participation in that story and what that means to us as how we treat celebrity, and what it means to celebrities as how they feel. So, I love this kind of stuff, and that more and more of it is coming out. I think it's important.
Susan, do you think somebody who only knows Selena Gomez through Only Murders in the Buildings would appreciate watching this?
I would think so.
I don't know any of her songs or anything, so.
I don't think you need to know her songs, but knowing where she started really young. She's from actually Dallas, Texas, so that's cool. But she started on Barney at a really young age. And I mean, I've always had empathy for child actors, because I do think like we get so mad at them, but it's like, because there's a trend. I mean, they always hit a really rough spot and they go to rehab or something. And I'm like, imagine being exploited, like just at such a young age, and maybe being deprived of a normal childhood. Like
there's an interesting argument that performing should be illegal in the same way that alcohol or tobacco is illegal under a certain age. There's an argument that fame should be a controlled substance, and that minors should be kept out. Now, I think the only way this happens is if technology progresses to where all kid parts are just digital actors, which sure, why not, right? Like that's interesting to me, but I don't know how you accomplish it otherwise, but there's an interesting, solid argument that fame is a drug, and that it should not be allowed to be partaken of by those who are still developing. So can you imagine a world where we made that illegal, to have anyone in your movie or TV show that was under the age of 18 or 16 or wherever we put it? That'd be wild. I mean, we're just so used to kids, but
it's literally called child labor.
Right.
I think there just needs to be some sort of like boundary to not overwork them, and I think there's something.
Well, those exist. There are definitely child labor laws that impact the movie industry, and that's oftentimes why they use twins under a certain age. So because there are limits on how much they can work, those kind of things. Those laws do exist. But just the idea of how you would find a way to legislate fame, that would be fascinating to me. I don't know that it's possible, but it's an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That is My Body, My Mind, and Me, the Selena Gomez documentary. That's on Apple TV+. Argentina 1985 is on Amazon Prime. And A Beautiful Mind is available to rent, I think, if you want to find that. But I do not know that it's streaming anywhere for free. So you can check those out. Well, we did it, guys. We did a podcast. Congratulations to everyone involved. Well done. Thanks for joining us today for Sif Pop. It is part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network. You can find out more about other shows on the network at studiodna.media or by searching Studio DNA in your podcast player. Huge thanks to Andrew for hanging out again today.
Oh, thank you, buddy.
You're welcome. Huge thanks to producer Phil for producing the audio and video show.
Thanks, Phil.
And thank you to Susan Comyab Stevens for hanging out with us again today. Always love it when you're on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
If people want more Susan in their life, where do they go to make you famous?
Go to thischicksflix.com. You can find me on my YouTube channel. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter. I always say Google me. But that's the safest bet is that website.
There you go. Thischicksflix.com. Chicks and flicks, both with X's. Thischicksflix.com. Also, thank you to our Sif Pop members. We've already talked a little bit about that, but want to throw a thank you out to you as well. If you want more information on what it means to be a Sif Pop member, just a reminder, that's at patreon.com/SifPop. If you would want to connect with us, that helps us out as well in like the search ratings, those kind of things. You can leave a comment, a rating, or a review wherever you listen, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever. And if you have an email you want to send us, feel free to send that to feedback@sifpop.com. And finally, if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably like it too. So let them know about the show and that listening is much easier than using a sentient blender without feeling like you're torturing it. We will be back next week, probably with Glass Onion. I know that's doing a Thanksgiving run, so we'll probably talk about Glass Onion next week. And Strange World, the new Disney movie, is coming out next week as well. So have a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, video chat. Sorry that we didn't get to do the video portion of the Best Ever Challenge again. Again, that is totally my fault. I tried to do a little bit of research during the show, and IMDb is not cooperating with me, so I will have to do that research here off air, and we'll record that segment here shortly. But appreciate you guys. Nick, Evan, I see you in the chat as well. Jay Bourgeois. Appreciate you having you guys with us, and several others who maybe aren't chatting. Also glad to see you here too. So we'll catch you on the next one. Bye, guys.
Bye.